Wendy here again from the Indigo Doors. I was called again, tap, tap, tap on the shoulder to share some more information, partly because it's a new moon tomorrow and we're entering into an exciting new era of Aquarius, right? So Aquarius is about like bringers of new age, kind of like broad thinking. They're the thinkers. So they're the ones that kind of dream. They really want us to dream big here, especially on this new moon. They want us to think big, dream big. Kind of Aquariuses are like far-fetching ideas, like extending beyond what we might know today. So really in honor of that and just the potential of where we all can go, I think it's kind of exciting. So I when I do these videos, I never really know what I'm going to talk about until I start talking because they like to keep me on my toes like that, I think. So here we are, and it's so fun. It is fun. I actually love this. And just like when we do anything new, we get better at it every time we do it, right? So I'm just kind of showing up. What I'm really being called to share is a little bit about what I do in regards to practicing and cultivating this reality. I was on this path since honestly, since I was like 16, 17. Doing shamanistic work and always knew that there was hands-on healing even before I even knew that was a thing. I just knew that I could heal with my hands, and I could always see things and hear things. And so, some of the things that I might take for granted, I feel they want me to share kind of how I use some of my shamanistic abilities to hunt for darkness within myself. And it's a very magical, powerful thing. I've had a lot of clients lately inquire about this because if we all knew how to do this actively, and there's lots of books on it, so this is just my take, but we're talking about a magical process of becoming, and in this way it's your relationship with yourself. I function based off the idea that everything in this universe is love, so everything's working for my highest and greatest good, and I've cultivated that. And before I can even sit down and meditate and even think about it, and it's not any like fancy practice where I'm getting into an altered state, and some people can do that, and that's great. I'm not even worried about that. So it's really about just helping people, helping you learn how to heal yourself on your own time. And it takes just intention. It takes just kind of showing up for yourself, but in a quiet space. So what that looks like for me in a real practical way is I would sit in my bedroom on the floor. I would light a candle. I like crystals. You don't have to use crystals though. I would create like a circle, almost like a medicine wheel for the four directions. I would pick crystals or rocks or even feathers or whatever to kind of represent the four directions. But I kind of have a Native American spirituality within me. So that calls to me. But if that doesn't call to you, you don't have to do that, right? For those that practice Reiki, you could do choku rays on the walls. The most important step of this process is feeling safe. So even before you would go hunting, and I call it hunting because um, I feel like one of my power animals is a panther, and in this way, it's just looking through the dark. And it can be seen as an aggressive way, but I actively do that, right? I actively look for sadness or anger within myself, and I'll explain that in a second. But before jumping into that, if you don't feel safe, that's a really hard thing to do. And there's a lot of fear around that, even entering into your feeling space, within yourself. So before you can even enter into hunting, you have to know how loved you are to a certain degree, or belief in a higher power, and when you ask, you shall receive. And I know that lots of spiritual books talk about this, but it's true. You really, if you call on Jesus or you call on Mother Mary or you call on the archangels, they come. And even though you might not be a seer or a hearer, It's really kind of cultivating that knowing that no matter what, they are there. And you sit there in that space, and it might take weeks to get to this place where you do truly believe that they're there, helping you, guiding you. And maybe you don't even have to hear them, but just know the safety that it can bring. So you call on all the archangels, you call on anybody. Some people like calling in bears, like the big brown bears, or even polar bears that have them sit down next to you, metaphorically speaking, and guide and guard you, right? To allow you to feel safe, wrapping yourself up with wings or blankets or whatever imaginative thing that you can come up with. I don't feel like there is a wrong or right. And I think that that is, um, for spiritual practices where you have to do it this way and you have to do these certain incantations, or you have to say this prayer, or you have to do this. We're all God. Everything that we have and exist and breathe and do is we're divine. I feel like it's about consciousness and your intention. And if you do this and you say that this is what it's going to do, it's going to do it. I know it. I live and breathe this, right? So starting off with that, cultivating a sense of safety. And when I first started this, I would just naturally just sit down and I would call in all the archangels, my spirit guides, um, my future self, right? My higher self, to help me, guide me, show me where it is that I need to go. And when I first started doing this, it was truly just about crying. It was about just feeling and allowing myself to a safe space to have emotion. There was no like cognitive understanding or processing, not at first. And there was really not even any hunting. So for the first part of this, of just showing up for yourself and how I do it, using some shamanistic ways, is just sitting in a space, calling in these guides, feeling the love of the universe, and then allowing myself to grieve or just feel wherever I was at, angry. And then I could start exploring some of those, right? I could start exploring, well, why, Wendy? Why are you so mad? What is it about that made you so angry? Right. And you are naturally going to attract whatever tools you need. Like, how they say when you're ready, the teacher shows up. Any books that you're called to, or people are offering your books, those are kind of like teachings that are coming into your awareness, just as a way of thinking about it. So it's like you will start attracting, if you're asking to heal, if you're asking for happiness or movement, things are moving towards you. You ask, you shall receive. So you're going to gain the tools that you need to move through what it is that you're asking about. And not being afraid to ask for help, right? We don't know what we don't know. So once you feel safe, and you have like a process of just allowing yourself to feel, because you have to be there, you have to allow yourself to feel, and you have to be comfortable in that space, and that might take a while, that might take a couple weeks, and then you go hunting. And hunting is, I'll sit down and I'll see if there's any, like what's kind of going on, and kind of like allowing like some, because at this point there's not a lot of emotions that are just waiting to come out, because I kind of function now, right? I function emotionally now, so meaning if it comes up, I let it out. But hunting is different. It's almost like hunting for things within your subconscious, so things I might not be aware of, and that's a little different process, right? um that's where you kind of move around in your body. I'm a physical, that's like one of my powers, is the physicalness. Like I use my body a lot, so I'll move through my body. Like, where am I holding on to things within my body? Where doesn't it just feel light and connected to source? So once I get connected to source, it becomes very obvious what parts in my body are not, right? So through this process, I'm healing my body, right? So if I'm sitting and I'm meditating, and I don't even sit in a cross-legged perfect way or hold my hands in a perfect way. There's people that master this process, and there is really such an honoring, because as you get into this, there is some subtleties that you can start really touching. But as a starting place, it's just a good place to just start showing up, right? And so once you have your machine, you're feeling, you start hunting. And I usually use my body as the doorway. So whatever's kind of bothering me, and then I'll talk to that part of my body, like, why is my neck so stiff, right? And it takes practice, but I trust whatever comes up, right? And and I'm obviously calling on my guides, and I'm using them, and I'm saying, help me see this. What's going on with my neck, right? Well, wow. And then it will take you to the next step, to the next step, to the next step. It's really allowing yourself, because even if I was to tell you my process, your process is going to be so different, but it's learning your own process. Meaning, like, if you jump into a work thing, I'm sure that was appropriate. Like if your mind took you to work, right? There's an association between your throat then and then work. Or if you have, I don't know, if you're having a knee issue and you think about your relationship, there's an association, right? So it's really trusting that everything that's happening in your reality is trying to waken you up to what's really happening in your whole kind of being, because everything's trying to help you evolve and integrate and love all of your parts, right? So if you have a belief system, they say that pain is just kind of a disconnection, a disconnection between self, and it's helping us. It's helping us understand where we might be disconnected or not listening, right? So really, like, that's the foundation of like doing this work for me, is really trusting that every single thing, whether it comes to a hangnail, I know it sounds silly, to stubbing my toe, right? Everything is always helping me understand and how to love myself. Because when you come from an environment where you were neglected or abused or traumatized, um, you have to utilize this skill of the unknown to infer you about what's actually happening within your mind and within your heart, right? And I feel like that is something that we're learning as a culture, and as a group of people, is how to heal, how to function maturely emotionally, right? So for those of you that are ready to hunt, right, that means you have a good relationship with your emotional self. And for those of you that have a harder time with your emotional self, where you don't know how you feel about things, or maybe you're overwhelmed with certain feelings, is just staying in that space, calling in all the archangels, right? Calling in all the angels, anybody, calling Jesus. Yes, you deserve Jesus, right? Or Mother Mary, or maybe Buddha, and all of the archangels, like, call in all of them. They're here for us, right? So call in all of them to help you and love you, because that's what we all are truly after, right? Is just love and feeling safe. So just sitting in that space until you really will have no more tears to cry, right? Or you won't have any more anger. So sitting there until, as long as it takes. But for those of you that are ready, and you are like, hey, there's just some things I just don't understand, that I can't see, you have to go hunting. And that is a completely different process. That is calling in your guides and actively pursuing, and using your foresight, which is here, right? Using not your brain, right? More of like, this is like a connection between your crown chakra, your third eye, and your heart, your feeling space, right? And you go hunting. So you start going within your mind throughout time and space. And this is where practicing your own intuition or your own sight really comes in handy. And really, like, whether like all of a sudden you're in a house, or all of a sudden, everyone has different gifts though, so everyone's not going to see it the same way. So it's really hard to explain this, because I don't feel like there is one way, but with intention. So it's like actively pursuing parts of yourself that might be hidden from your consciousness. That's what hunting is. Because if you call it out, it has to come forward. If you call it out, it has to come forward. There's certain like rules of the universe. So you call it out and it comes forward. And so you ask what it is that it would like you to know, right? Right? And you kind of dance a little bit. You have a conversation with this part of yourself. Sometimes they're very dark parts, sometimes they're scary parts, sometimes they're very ugly, neglected parts. Sometimes they're parts that are really mad at yourself, that mad at you, right? However it comes up, you call it out. You're searching for it. Because as you seek, you shall find. In this kind of like quantum mechanics of the universe, it's like that's how it works. It has to come if you call it, even within yourself, these parts, right? It's how consciousness works. It's amazing. So, and because of the tools that you've gained from just your own emotional awareness, you figure out what these parts, how they feel, how they feel, how they see it, right? They need a voice ultimately, and so you give them one. You listen. But mind you, you're still anchored in your knowing that you're loved. So you're able to kind of, once you hear its story, you're able to still call it back to yourself and say, I know you're angry, but we're going to take care of you now. I'm sorry that this happened, but I want to love you now, right? If it was a neglected part, if it was an angry part, it's like, I need to listen. I'm sorry that I haven't been listening to you, right? Or if it's a really dark, scary part and it thinks that, everyone's a murderer or everything bad is going to happen, you're going to say, yeah, some bad things have happened. And I'm sorry some bad things have happened to you. So once you actually allow these parts of yourself to be heard, then you can take them back with you. And you can heal your timeline, heal yourself, heal your past. And ultimately, that's what we do in therapy, is an elongated version of that, right? But for those of you that are on this path, or for those of you that are even listening to this video, you're already actively doing this work, right? So this is how you need to, this is what you do when no one is watching. This is the work. Whenever Brenda and I say this, you need to do the work. This is the work. The work is just showing up for yourself, right? Just loving yourself. But how do you do that? This is how I did it. Over and over and over again for years. Showing up, allowing myself to process emotions. And I still actively pursue parts of my subconscious in other timelines, because it gets really trippy when you start feeling all of your past lives. I just say lives in general, because there's an overlapping of lessons if they're coming up into your consciousness. And I'll get into that later, but so that is kind of how you hunt. You call it out, and you can call out things specifically. Like, I want to call out, I don't know what happened when I was 3. I want to find that part. I want to find that part of myself. And maybe you don't even know if there's a wound there. And if that doesn't work, then you if you don't know consciously, I use my body because the body's going to kind of tell you where the wound is, even a time wise. Like if you haven't looked up chakras and when they're formed, and how they can, how and when, and where you hold wounds, right? And how that shows up in the body. Like if you've had a traumatic experience and how that would show up if it hasn't been healed. Healed means just showing up for that part of the self that was neglected or abused during that time, because everything is repairable. And that's truly what this is all about. How to walk this walk, how to be a healer, really, your own healer, the healer within, right? The healer within. And if you need more help or if you need more tools, Brenda and I offer courses to give you tools to work through all of the chakras. We're having an 8-week course start in March of 2021. So I don't know when you're watching this, but it is something that we're going to continually adapt and evolve and have. So just follow us on our website. But I hope this was helpful, right? Yeah, a little modern shamanism, right? How to hunt in the dark, hunt for your darkness. And yeah, so I hope you enjoyed that. That was what I guess was called to share. So enjoy it, and please message or reach out if you have any questions or need more help than that or guidance, because we love to help. That's why we're here. Many, many blessings and much love to everybody that's watching. Take care, and until next time.